from your screen, what you can see on your end. But our videographer has zoomed in on some police tape, and then it looks like there's some evidence on the ground there. They've got some cones out there showing, it looks like they're marking some things on the ground there. Perhaps a crime scene. I don't know how good you're able to see what I'm able to see, but are you able to kind of pick out any details here?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're hearing potentially 20 to 30 shots fired. We don't know who fired those shots, but this crime scene certainly would depict that's the area of where this all started. And what they want to do is go out and mark all the shell casings, as we see with those small cones underneath that crime scene tape. But more importantly, you want to cordon off that entire area. It is a fluid and action crime scene, Austin, so they have to process it as a crime. The individual was taken to the hospital, later, I'm assuming, to be charged. So they're going to work it as a criminal investigation. And that crime scene will be up for a matter of hours until they photograph and collect all the evidentiary values.
So a number of shots were fired. There are videos circulating on social media where you can hear the shots. One question I have, and I'm curious if your take on the relevance of this question, when you hear of shots fired, you really don't know who the shots were fired by. That could be the suspect, or that could be return fire from officers, correct?
Absolutely. Just like we'd seen at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, the bad guy in that case actually was able to fire Secret Service return fire. So in this case, it's just too early to determine who is in charge of those rounds that we see the casings laying on the sidewalk there, whether it's Secret Service or the bad guys. We just don't know yet. Here's the other thing too. They're going to canvass that entire area for any video surveillance. We know that the White House is secured very good with video surveillance, so they're going to go down and replay all of that. We see the officers walking in the street now, so everything's shut down on Pennsylvania Avenue. So, they want to go out and get eye and ear witnesses as well. But here's another $100,000 question, Austin. Was this a lone actor? Did someone drop him off with this weapon? So they want to canvass the neighborhood to see if they find any perhaps abandoned cars or a getaway car from the bad guy.
It's approaching 7:45 in DC, and just to reset for everybody, I'm Austin Westfall, law enforcement expert. Jamie Copenhaver is here with me. We're kind of talking through this breaking news scene. I've been checking in on updates from the Associated Press and from Fox News as they've been tracking latest developments from this shooting situation in Washington. I got to ask you, Jamie, it's interesting when we go over scenes like this because all of this, it happens kind of in real time, and forgive me as I kind of go through these different scenes here. I've got 4 or 5 different angles of this spread out here, and I've kind of got all of them in my periphery, so I'm switching between which ones I see have the most movement, and some of them do, and then we've got this one right here where they're zooming back in on some of the police tape, and I gotta say, it's just really tough to make out exactly what we're seeing, and they'll get their focus in there. I think that's going to be where those cones were, yes. So, again, just to reset for people who may just be joining us, law enforcement did put the White House on lockdown. There was a shooting situation outside the White House. Law enforcement and other authorities, the Secret Service, the FBI, on scene after as many as 30 shots were reported fired, according to Fox. There were no immediate reports of injuries to innocent bystanders. We saw some reporting from Chad Pergram that the Secret Service took down a shooter, and then I later read from the Associated Press that the Secret Service had confirmed to them that there was, in fact, a person that was taken down, a suspect, if you will. President Trump was inside the White House at the time, working on a deal with Iran. Bill Stewart with Reuters saying this, and I just have to say, this is a little bit tough to read because it's written in a way that the news wires tend to speak, but he's saying that the suspect approached a checkpoint near the White House, fired at officers, and then the White House was put on lockdown, the suspect was taken down, and then taken to a hospital. The scene is contained. no law enforcement personnel were injured. So thankfully, Reuters there saying that no law enforcement officers were injured. I'm curious. Okay, I'm hearing that there's a new tweet from our producing team. Chad Pergram saying shots fired near the White House. Okay, suspect brandished a pistol, got off 3 shots. The USSS, that's the U.S. Secret Service, returned fire. Alleged perpetrator and a bystander was shot. Okay, so that's a new detail to me here. Okay, so Jamie, still on the line with me. A couple of new details here, starting with the suspect brandishing a pistol. That suspect got 3 shots off. The Secret Service returned fire. And then it does seem that the suspect, the shooter, was shot, and then a bystander was shot. What are we to make of a brandished pistol and this suspect getting 3 shots off before the Secret Service returned fire, Jamie?
I mean, it's a no-gun zone in the district up there. So first of all, he committed a crime walking up there with a weapon. You just don't have weapons in the district. More importantly, I mean, he was able to fire 3 shots before the Secret Service returned fire. We don't know if he was struck or if he was taken down by force. We just don't know that yet. The sad part, you have a potential spectator that wasn't involved in any of this, Austin, that was also potentially struck by one of these bullets. We don't know from the bad guy or from the Secret Service. But here we go again. We just came off the White House Correspondents shooting. That happened very quick. And, we haven't seen the video of this in action. I'm sure it'll be released at one point. This will be a very quick incident as well. He walks up, brandishes the weapon, fires his 3 shots. They return fire. We just don't know if the suspect was shot or if he was taken down by force, by hands. The scary part about it is that is a very well-traveled area for tourism. You always want to get a picture of the White House from outside of the barrier or the fence. So there are always foot traffic in that area, Austin. But like I said, I was just up in the district. They've expanded that perimeter around the White House, and they've doubled up in terms of protection on the outer perimeter with uniformed Secret Service agents that are on duty 24/7.
First time I ever walked by the White House, I walked this exact intersection, just like you said. So many people do this walkway, this exact intersection here. I believe 17th and Pennsylvania. This is where you would be if you wanted to be in the middle of it all, especially if you're a tourist visiting some of these areas. I need to say one update here. We just got some new reporting in from the AP. I'm going to read some of this because there's a few paragraphs of information here. And again, I'll just read the AP's reporting verbatim. They say that the U.S. Secret Service shot a person near the White House earlier today, and a bystander also was shot, a law enforcement official said. Both people were said to be in critical condition, according to the official who spoke on the condition of anonymity because they were not authorized to discuss the investigation. Journalists working at the White House on Saturday reported hearing a series of gunshots and were told to seek shelter inside the press briefing room. On X, the Secret Service said it was aware of reports of shots fired near 17th and Pennsylvania, which is 1 block from the White House, and they were working to corroborate the information with personnel on the ground. It said it will have an update shortly. And then in a social media post, FBI Director Kash Patel said officers were responding to shots fired and said that he would update the public as they're able to. Now, if there will be a press briefing on camera, we will let the audience know as soon as we get a little more clarity on what that would look like and what agency will be holding it, when it will take place. But that's the update for now. The AP says that 2 people are in critical condition. Secret Service shooting a person, and then a bystander also was shot. What's not clear to me from this reporting, at least, is who was shot by, or who the bystander was shot by. Jamie, do you have that same question?
Oh, absolutely. The shooting team, once they get into the investigation, they'll be able to determine it once that projectile is removed from the bodies of both of these individuals that were shot. Plus, you're going to have eyewitnesses. You're going to have the Secret Service agents and the uniform agents will offer up testimony there on the scene. So, I'm sure they're going to get a handle as to whether it's friendly fire or not. We just don't know yet. But once again, everything in there is under video surveillance, Austin. we're going to have a really good recap of what occurred, and the investigators can certainly come over that and figure out where those shots were fired by Secret Service or the bad guy. We just don't know. But it is a burning question. Was it friendly fire?
You're familiar with the area. You're familiar with the security situation at the White House, I know. What's the actual likelihood that President Trump could have actually been in any danger here?
Very little. That White House is certainly secured by inches and inches thick of glass windows, so it's not going to penetrate through any glass windows or the Oval Office. And then you have that large perimeter around the White House itself. So, they have canines on duty. Had the bad guy penetrated the White House grounds and was actually beyond the fence, you're going to have a canine unit. You're going to have an element of SWAT operators that are going to be snipers on the roof of the White House that's going to take a shot potentially at that invader, if you want to call him that. But as far as the president, absolutely no threat to the president or anyone inside the White House. Austin, here's the bad part. There on Pebble Beach, we've both been there. The journalists are out in the wilderness, for lack of better words. They have no protection. If you have a shooting or a shooter on the White House grounds, they're going to be running into the White House for some type of cover. So they're sort of out there unprotected on Pebble Beach where all the tents are set up.
We have a live camera that's at Pebble Beach. It's watched some of the reporters and other media members kind of go back and forth between the North Lawn area and inside the White House. They were under lockdown in the briefing room there for a little while. And, of course, when the president, you can only imagine, once the security situation unfolded, the secure area that they would take the president to. I'm curious if they would take him down to the Situation Room. Does that sound about right, Jamie?
It does. You want to move that president. It's my understanding potentially Vice President Vance may have been in the Oval Office along with Secretary of State Rubio. You want to move those principals into the Situation Room, out of the shooter's way. Like I said, Austin, that is the most well-protected house in the world, but you still want to move those principals, i.e. the president, vice president, into that Situation Room or the bunker, perhaps, depending on how bad or how close the shooter was.
So, we've been talking about the Secret Service on scene, the FBI on scene, local D.C. police on scene. How do all of those agencies work together to tackle something like this as efficiently as possible?
You're going to have the FBI, as Director Patel indicated, they're going to be leading the investigation. Secret Service will do a parallel investigation on the criminal part of this. And then you're going to have a shooting team determine if it was a good shoot, should one of these rounds from Secret Service struck the bad guy or the bystander. So it's going to be a multifaceted investigation, but FBI will take the lead in it. The United States Secret Service will parallel that investigation. And then, you're going to have the administrative investigations parallel to the criminal investigations. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro show up on the scene. She will be the person prosecuting this case in the federal system out of the District of Columbia.
How do officials determine whether or not they can lift a lockdown at the White House?
We're seeing it. They have that area. It's already cordoned off. Post-incident, you want to go out and make sure that you have all the evidentiary items collected. You want to make sure there's no getaway car. Keep in mind, the bad guy arrived some way. He perhaps could have been staying in a nearby hotel. So you want to do all the timeline and chronological order stuff before you release that lockdown. Because keep in mind, it's a crime scene. It'll be charged in federal court, one would suggest. So until all the evidence is collected and the scene is secured, meaning if he was a lone actor, the threat level is going to come down. Once you identify if he was at a hotel or a nearby car parked near the White House, you'll secure that car, determine no one was in it. And, as you move out, that lockdown will start